Hey everybody, today we actually took delivery of our standard range Tesla Model 3. This is theoretically the base model at $35,000 with only one option on it, which is the blue paint that you see right here. Now, we do have some updates for you because there were a lot of questions about exactly how this was going to work. The first thing that we can answer is that the blue paint only adds $1,000. So even though I did order this in advance and I got the base model, and the paint option when I ordered it was more expensive, they did give us that effective discount. So if we come on over here, you can actually see some of the other things that we noticed. The one big thing actually before we hop in is that this is actually labeled Standard Range Plus on our VIN. You can definitely see that right there. And that is because Tesla has actually still not created the interior components for a regular standard range model. So theoretically, this interior was supposed to be cheaper feeling, but it's actually not. This actually is the same material you get in the Standard Range Plus. That means that we have powered seats right over here for the driver. That's a big deal because that was supposed to be missing. We also have the speaker grills here in the A-pillars and over here on the door. We were actually supposed to get fewer speakers in this model. Now, I haven't been able to check behind these door panels to see if the speakers are missing just yet, but you can see that the rest of this interior actually is as it was supposed to be for the Standard Range Plus model. The overall interior trimmings, etc., are that Standard Range Plus model. We will, of course, have a complete review very, very soon here where we're going to test the performance, see if the performance is the same as the Standard Range Plus. But we do know at this point that they have software limited the battery range. So you don't get that extra bump in battery range that you would get with Standard Range Plus. Instead, we are getting only what was promised when we ordered the car. Some folks were asking whether this would come with the key cards or just the phone as key. I can answer that question. We did get two key cards with the car, so you can actually lock and unlock it with these rather than just using your phone. And back here, everything again is basically the same as Standard Range Plus. Pretty standard trunk right back there. Now over on the inside, you'll notice that we have the same screen in the dashboard, and we still have the plastic rod on there. I will just peel that right off. You'll see over here, if I click onto the range icon, we definitely have the standard range battery. I can move it all the way over there to the maximum charge, for instance, but you can see by its overall range there, and that we definitely have that software limited battery. We still have the same sort of treatments on the dashboard over here on each side that you'll see in the Standard Range Plus, so that didn't get cheaper. And the climate control system also didn't get cheaper. There were some questions out there as to whether this electric operating vent that runs right across the dashboard, whether that would be replaced with more traditional air vents. That hasn't happened, so that is still the same right there. Now, there is a slight difference in the mapping interface. I actually have not had a chance to really investigate that too much just yet, but this mapping interface is a little bit different if you choose the more expensive Model 3. But overall, this actually ends up being a pretty good deal. So if you're thinking about getting a Standard Range Plus and you just want to get a less expensive vehicle overall, this is going to be a pretty good option for you because we still get the same upholstery on the inside, same interior trappings. They don't actually get cheaper feeling like they were supposed to. Now, one thing that I do dislike immediately actually has to be this fixed glass panel right up here. I'm not a huge fan of glass panels in the roof that cannot be completely shaded. I do think that that is one downside to the Model 3 in general. I wish there was an option to just get a solid roof or an option for perhaps one of those liquid crystal dimming roofs like we find in Mercedes S-Class models. You can get aftermarket shades, but I really wish there was some solution from that for the factory. Speaking of aftermarket things, it was interesting that in the delivery process, which was incredibly short, I have to say, the guy was here for maybe about 5 minutes, sign away. There were about 4 or 5 signatures required here in California. He did the briefest of walkthroughs on the interior, and then he was gone. Some people might be offended by the shortness of that, but I actually have to say that I really like that because the last car purchase that we did, we were at the Dodge dealer for probably about 2 hours trying to get the vehicle done, and then they insisted on pairing our smartphone for us, etc. And that was just silly. I know how to pair smartphones, so didn't need all of that. So for me, this delivery model was actually pretty good. But I do have to say, if I hop out here and then move over to the rear door, that one of the things they mentioned immediately was people breaking the rear windows in the Model 3. The guy actually referred to it as a design flaw because there's no way to lock these rear seats from the factory. Maybe there'll be an aftermarket option. He suggested researching one. He also suggested just not keeping anything valuable in the trunk, which seems a little bit silly to come from a manufacturer. Obviously, there are other cars out there with similar designs to this, but for some reason, Teslas have been a particular target lately for this kind of theft, where they just break this customer window, hop in there, take a glance, see if there's anything worth taking. If there is, they just run off with it and break the rest of the windows. If you want to know more about the standard range Model 3, be sure and stay tuned because we are going to have a complete video on this coming up next week. So very, very soon right after this. I do want to drive this a little bit before I give any more opinions on it. And this actually has not left its parking space since the vehicle was delivered. So if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button down there at the bottom of your screen. Also be sure and stay tuned because we will have a head-to-head review of this versus the Nissan Leaf Plus in its top-end trim and the Niro EV in its top-end trim as well, coming up soon. That is a strangely valid comparison because even though this is rear-wheel drive and a luxury branded vehicle, they're going to be about the same price on the dealer lot. So again, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you next week.